Spring in Temecula and Southern California is absolutely magical, especially in March and April when the region comes alive with vibrant blooms. This is also a time of nature's rebirth. For many Christians, this is also a time of Easter celebrations. For us, it's usually followed by a special Easter Sunday lunch and, of course, egg coloring. So in today's episode, beside cooking, I'm going to show you a traditional way of coloring eggs with wax. Temecula Valley, otherwise known for its wine country, is particularly stunning during these times as the vineyards start to show off their bright green leaves, creating a beautiful contrast with the blossoming landscape. The rolling hills, vineyards, and fields are awash with color as wildflowers, mustard bloom, and citrus trees burst into life. What makes this blossom so special is the combination of perfect weather, rich soil, and the diversity of plant life. So if you live in California, this is not something that you see every day. The mild spring weather, warm but not too hot, makes it ideal for outdoor activities like wine tasting, hiking, and simply soaking in the beauty of the blooming surroundings. It's so beautiful. It's unbelievable how much goodness nature can give us. This is also a time of the year when I absolutely enjoy going for long walks. Spring is truly a time of renewal and natural beauty in Southern California, offering a chance to connect with nature and enjoy the season's full bounty. For those who have opportunity to visit, a spring bloom in California is definitely a must-see. And until you do, please join me on a special spring tour of my neighborhood. In spring, the fragrance of jasmine wraps around my house, filling the air with its sweet, calming scent, while my little vineyard awakens with radiant green leaves, making me often forget that I live in the desert. Spring brings a promise of a bountiful harvest later in the year. Judging by an early start, it looks like this is going to be a good year, which gives me a hope that I will be able to make some lozovacha later this fall. But one of the most fragrant things on a property is definitely citrus. Filled with blossom, some trees look like they're covered in snow. I treasure this time of the year as every corner of the property comes to life with vibrant flowers and colors. The roses, especially, are in full bloom. Their beauty reminds me of the flower gardens my mom and grandmother tended to in Serbia. All this beautiful blossom and the new growth also makes me think about the Easter in Serbia. One of my favorite memories about Easter was watching my grandma create patterns and designs on eggs using beeswax. I continue to keep this tradition and a memory of my grandma, but I'm nowhere as good as she was. At least we have her special pen, which I inherited, and we're gonna give our best try. As for the cooking part of this episode, we're gonna focus on beef. We're gonna make a prime rib, as this is something that's traditionally served in America for Easter celebration. And speaking of beef, we're going to drive all the way from Temecula to Kansas to visit a special cattle farm. Driving through America is one of my favorite things to do with my kids. Despite our financial challenges, I still made sure that I took my kids on trips across the country so they had a clear understanding of what their country looked like. I find it really sad that a lot of children in America today don't have a slightest idea of how vast and beautiful their country is. I'm a strong believer that if you don't have a clear understanding and if you can grasp the value of what you have, you won't appreciate it and you won't protect it. And that's why I took a lot of road trips with my kids. And this one takes us straight to the cornfields of Kansas. Going to Kansas felt like going to Serbia because I grew up in cornfields like this one. For a lot of kids today, when you talk about beef, the first thought that comes to their mind is most often a hamburger. But there is a whole lot more that happens prior to that delicious bite. We are arriving to a very special ranch to meet a beef seed stock producer. In beef raising terminology and industry, this is someone who supplies only the best breeding stock to other ranchers. The genetics are maternal in nature, focusing on cattle that require little outside resources and minimal labor. I bet a lot of you didn't even know that such a job exists out there.
Yeah, beautiful.
Rancher Jeff specializes in developing and selling Angus and Red Angus bulls and red heifers to ranchers in a region. The cow herd consists of approximately 100 fall calving cows. Top heifers are bred at around 14 months and sold as bred heifers around May 1st. Top bulls are developed between 18 to 20 months of age when they are sold for March or May delivery. Majority of the calves are born in September and will remain with their mothers until the following April. Despite their size and how fragile they look, Mother Nature has worked its miracle through their genes, enabling calves to survive very harsh winter months. Going forward, we all need to pay closer attention to our food growers. Healthy food is a national treasure, but it's also a matter of a national security. And with that said, we all need to start to pay closer attention to these important resources. This kind of job will require not just the government's and our ranchers' initiative, but everyone's involvement. Our visit to beautiful Kansas is coming to the end, and I want to extend a special thank you to our host Jeff for his hospitality and for showing us around. It's time to get back to Temecula, where I'm going to show you how to make a typical pot roast dish. This is a traditional American dish, and I'm going to do my best to show you how it's done. 50 years ago, pot roast was a staple food in most American families. Today, this dish is almost forgotten. We start with a sizable piece of beef. Just absorb all the moisture from the meat, after which we will add salt and pepper on both sides. Next is flour. Tap it in gently, and then we'll shake off all the excess flour before setting meat to fry on a high temperature. Let the meat sear for a few minutes. While meat is getting nice crust, I'm pulling out some smoked plums, which I'm going to add to this recipe. They are the key to making this recipe special. But even more important ingredient than plums is this homemade wine. This is looking good. So let's do the same thing on the other side. If you're going to use garlic, use fresh garlic and use per your taste. I like a lot of garlic, so we're going to add about 5 to 6 cloves. Meat is almost done and the veggie bed is made. All I'm going to do is add some salt and pepper over carrots, celery, and onions. I want to tell you a little bit more about this beautiful wine, which will make all the difference in the recipe. This wine was grown right next to my home on the rolling hills of Temecula's wine country. From our desert-rich soil, my friends are taking ripe grapes and turning them into a special homemade wine. Smooth, sweet, and intense grape flavor will help enhance the beef flavor in our dish. All good chefs and cooks know that key to every recipe is the quality of the ingredients they use. And for this recipe, we are only going with the best. We got our smoked plums in, we revived them in a hot oil, and now we're gonna lay the beef on the vegetables. I'm gonna add the plums, and then I'm gonna pour the hot oil over it. A cup of beef broth goes back to the pan so we can dissolve all these special flavors left from meat and oil, and then we're gonna pour this over the beef along with the wine. Add wine per your taste. With wine and broth in, we're gonna start layering potatoes around beef. And the reason we're doing this is because we want our potatoes to be steamed and roasted at the same time. Adding herbs is optional. I love adding a little rosemary and a mixture of different herbs from my garden. A little bit of salt over potatoes and a touch of olive oil. Last is garlic, and our roast is ready for the oven. All the vegetable peelings are going to our newly built compost box. And since we are showing it off, I want to tell you why we built it. First and foremost, I believe that all children should grow up in nature. I also believe that we should teach kids important life skills which will keep them close to the natural way of life. As you can tell, our little compost box is not very sophisticated. I'm not even sure if it will really work, but the idea behind it was not so much to generate compost, but rather to make a project that would involve the family's effort to build something together. We are rapidly losing hands-on skills among our youth, and very few young people would choose today to engage themselves in projects like this one. Yet somehow so much of their wellness in future depends on the time spending in nature and creating with their hands. Not to mention that these were some of our favorite times spent together. I'm not exactly sure how, But I know that we have to figure out the way to get our kids out of their dark rooms and away from devices and to re-engage them back with the nature. Growing your own food and composting the process of it is lots of fun. Things we grow and don't end up using, including all the fruits and vegetables peels, end up in this box, creating this nutrient-dense concoction that we're going to use later for our garden. In one of our future episodes, I hope I'll be able to share with you if this compost turned out the way we hoped it would. After a couple hours of cooking, our pot roast is just about done. We're going to bring the fork to make sure our food is done to perfection. So the trick is, if the fork goes smoothly through meat and potatoes, dish is ready for serving. Making gravy out of the juices from meat and vegetables is optional. I had some uninvited and hungry guests come today. And believing in hospitality the way I do, there was no other way but to share my lunch with them. This brings us back to Easter celebration and to egg coloring. Ideally, I would wish for every home to have their own chickens. Besides providing us with healthy eggs, chickens do all sorts of things around the yard. Each day, I let mine out for a while so they can deal with the weeds and pests like snakes, lizards, and mice. Chickens will eat almost anything, giving me a chance to recycle some of the food we don't consume and the growth from our garden and our vineyard. We have our fresh eggs, and the next thing is getting a little gadget which will be able to spread the wax on eggs. Okay, so let's do it. As you saw, I have this wooden pen. My grandma made it just with a piece of wood, which she split on the top, and then she put this metal part in and she tied it up. And so I don't know how old this little thing is, but ever since I remember her coloring eggs, she was using this precise thing. And when I was little, I would sit right next to her and I would watch how she makes these patterns. And I was just so intrigued, thinking, what makes her take a turn this way or that way? What makes her create these patterns, and how did she learn them? So to this day, I continue to follow the similar patterns. And going back, when I was little, I would look at her and I would say, "Grandma, when you die, can I have your pen?" And this is the only thing I wanted it from my grandma, and this is the only thing I inherited from my grandma, besides all the wonderful lessons that she gave me and the wonderful memories that she created together with me. So the way that this works is that we need to keep the wax on this pen warm and liquid throughout the whole time that we're working with eggs. To start, we're going to apply a thin piece of real beeswax on this little gadget. And let's go with our first one. To start, I would suggest to go with the simple patterns. Once you get comfortable with it, you can go online to check for particular designs, or you can just create your own. As you work, you want to make sure that you always have enough of beeswax near the tip of the pen, but not too much because it will leak. So you just go gently over fire. Try not to get frustrated because it takes a little practice to figure out exactly at which temperature wax works the best, how long you need to keep it on a flame. So usually first couple of eggs, you're gonna see some mistakes and you're gonna feel like, oh, this is not worth it. As you continue to work on it, you'll find that this is very relaxing. It's one of those crafts that's very rewarding because it brings you peace and calmness, but it also invites your creativity forward. Sadly, all these wonderful little crafts are now being replaced with the time online. I'm barely doing justice to my grandma and to all the Eastern European women who are exceptional at these designs. It's interesting to see how resourceful people used to be. A little fire and some beeswax, and you have these amazing designs that speak of not only celebrating the Easter, but also, celebrating something that's deeply rooted in humanity, which is creativity. And the next step would be to boil these in onion skins to get the red color. So once the egg is colored, the wax part then would turn out to be white and all the rest of the egg would be red. So we're not going to take it to that step, but anyway, I just want to show you how wax coloring works. It's such an interesting thing to see how creative people were using the resources they had, like wax and just piece of wood, and they just make the patterns. Not too bad, huh? As technology continues to advance, there is a risk of losing touch with practices that have shaped many different cultures. By teaching these traditions, we can ensure that future generations can appreciate the richness of their history. We're going to go back to the cooking portion of our program, and since I showed you how to make a roast beef, now I'm going to show you how to make an excellent prime rib. To start, make sure your prime rib is at room temperature. Now we're going to coat it in fat. You can use butter, olive oil, or you can use lard. Roasting process is different than what we did for the pot roast, but the base is the same. I'm using carrots, celery, and onions. However, the herbs we'll be using are slightly different. This is a special blend of herbs containing rosemary, thyme, garlic powder, parsley, oregano, some salt and black pepper, onion powder, and a touch of paprika. We want to make sure to apply a thick coat of herbs all around the meat. For the roasting part, we are starting on 450 degrees. This is going to help us get the nice crispy coat around the meat. After that, we're going to reduce the temperature to 325 and we're going to roast the beef until the internal temperature reaches 130. Generally, if you like your prime rib rare, keep it at 120. Otherwise, 130 to 140 is medium to medium rare, and 150 will be a well done prime rib. When I was growing up, throughout the year, there were many celebrations through which families will gather together to cook and host their families and friends. In Serbian culture, most of these celebrations are tightly connected to a special celebration called Slava. Slava is a unique Serbian Orthodox Christian tradition where families celebrate a patron saint they're dedicated to, typically passed down from generations to generations. It's a religious and cultural holiday where families honor their chosen saint with prayers, special meals, and rituals. Each family celebrates and honors a different saint, which means that throughout the year there are countless celebrations, giving opportunity to friends and families to continuously visit, dine, and celebrate together. In one of our future episodes, I would love to take you through steps of preparing and celebrating one of these special events. Until then, we're going to focus on celebrating today's Easter. Respecting all cultural and religious traditions is essential to fostering understanding and harmony in our diverse world. And while we celebrate, it's important to open our doors and invite others to join our celebrations, just as we should embrace the opportunity to participate in theirs. By a small gesture of sharing and respecting each other's traditions, we can create stronger connections and build a more inclusive and compassionate world. Being hospitable and keeping our door open to our fellow man is the beginning of something wonderful. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. I want to thank you for spending time with me and for following me on my travels. Until the next time and next cooking and traveling adventure, please take good care of yourself and those around you. For more information about this program and about the charity called Vlada Seeds of Life, you can visit us at vladav.com.